Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Donna Seymour. I'm a member of the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters, one of the civic partners for our show. My guests today are Lisa Torrey and Martha Weaver, who are organizers for two of the No King's Day protests here in the North Country on October 18th. Lisa is helping with the Potsdam event, and Martha is with the Malone event. Lisa and Martha, welcome to North Country Matters. I'm glad you both are on the show to talk about the No Kings movement and these two upcoming events, which are just two of several here in the North Country. So, America's pro democracy movement is gearing up for what may be its biggest mass demonstration against the Trump administration's escalating abuse of power, deploying troops to our communities to use as training grounds, labeling advocates and dissidents as terrorists, fast tracking deportations of families with no access to justice, attacking campuses and comedians for their speech, and threatening our free and fair elections. So, before we get into the No Kings details, let's ask you to tell us a little bit about why you are doing this work. Lisa, what brought you to take a role in organizing local protests against the administration?
I think that you put your finger on it just now. It's that escalating abuse of power. Everywhere we turn this year, there's corruption, there's chaos, there's cruelty. And I think a lot of us have felt the urge to do something, and this has been my something. And I guess I'd like to emphasize that everybody can find something. It doesn't have to be this, it doesn't have to be big. But I think that the only way out of this is through, and every little bit helps.
I think one of the things that's true is that resistance is never futile. And when you see something that's going on in the community and in the country that's wrong, standing up and speaking out is the only possible response if we want to continue to have a free and fair country. So, Martha, the same question to you. What brought you to this point in your home community?
Okay, so I think that what brought me here is what probably brought most of the organizers and most of the participants, and that is that I love America. I think democracy is the best form of government. I don't want a authoritarian government. I don't want a communist government. I don't want an anarchy government. I want a fully functioning democracy. America has never had that, but we've made progress towards that. And it's really disheartening to see how quickly all of that is being destroyed.
I've made that point on this show before that it takes years, decades sometimes to put in place the systems that we have watched literally be gutted and destroyed since January. And it's very disheartening to see that. But what is heartening is how many people, average American citizens, are speaking out and fighting back against it. And that's part of what the No Kings movement's about. It's all about popular resistance to President Trump's second term, which is snowballed in a really organic fashion from that large President's Day protest in February through mass demonstrations in April to the first No Kings protest on Trump's birthday in June, which has drawn millions of people to counter the president's so-called militarization and authoritarianism of this country. So the No Kings 2 on October 18th will showcase America's continuing revulsion to so many of the increasingly lawless actions of our president, who claim a lot of Americans would like a dictator. No, actually, we would not. So, Lisa, one of the strengths of these protests has been how widespread they are all across the country in rural, suburban, and urban communities. Tell us about how that has played out here in the North Country.
Yeah, there have been protests all over the North Country over the past few months. Some of them have been quite large. The first No Kings protest was in Canton back in June. That had over 700 people. But we also have smaller groups just with great persistence. They show up every week to have their say. Um, I think that a big part of this is, of course, the First Amendment, the right of the people peaceably to assemble. But for a lot of us, I think it's also about community as much as it is about protest. I think when it feels like your country is falling apart, it helps to know that there are others who see it too and who care. Speaking of which, we always do a collection drive for a local neighborhood center at these events, and people are encouraged to bring a check donation or a non-perishable food item or personal care item if they're able to.
You know, that's a really important point because what we have seen is whether it's the federal government cutting off food aid or medical care or trying to take away senior rights and senior actions, all of these are people who are very vulnerable in our community, particularly if they're an immigrant or someone who looks a little different than mainstream America. I just watched a short video just a few moments ago about two people trying to force obviously a Latino man into a van, and people stopped their cars and they got out and they stood around and they protested to the point where those two people who were wearing face masks, so they didn't want to be identified, finally gave up and went away. And that's the kind of thing we're talking about, is ordinary citizens taking action to protect others. And that is so important. Martha, another strength of these protests has been how many different organizations have come together to organize protests. There's literally dozens of them. Talk to us about the reasons why Indivisible, excuse me, and some other groups supporting No King's Day event in your community. How did they come together?
Okay, well, so first I want to mention that nationally there are over 200 organizations that are supporting the No Kings event, and that's being added to all the time. Indivisible is one of the main organizers behind this event. I would like to, and one of the national groups is the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, and so locally one of our supporters is the 1199 SEIU and United Healthcare Workers, and so that represents the many of the healthcare workers at our hospital here at Alice Hyde. And it's really important, and I really want to emphasize that right now, that they are active supporting the No Kings, because the whole government shutdown at this point is centered around healthcare. It's very threatened, and even originally people were talking about the hospitals that would be threatened up here under the Trump regime, and Alice Hyde wasn't listed as one of those, but there's been a recent analysis, and because of the fallout that will occur if you lose some of the Medicaid dollars, if people lose their health insurance coverage, then eventually the hospitals are hurt, and then everyone that is looking for service, Alice Hyde will actually be threatened over, I don't know exactly the time frame, but what's going to happen to the Medicare coverage and other medical coverage threatens the existence of Alice Hyde Hospital in our community.
You make a really good point there, because what we know is that the most vulnerable people in our society have Medicaid. And there, a lot of them are kids, a lot of them are seniors, or a lot of them are families who are working as hard as they can, but they can't make a living wage in this economy. And it's particularly here in rural America, where we already are at a deficit for health care. To have anything that threatens what we already have is only going to hurt more and more people. So that's a really good point. And the healthcare workers who are supporting this are really doing it not only for their own jobs, but for the good of their own community,
Yes.
aren't they?
Yes, exactly.
So let's talk about where and when the North Country events are taking place on October 8th. Tell us about the Potsdam event, Lisa.
So just October 18th.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yep, that's okay. The event in Potsdam is going to start at 11 a.m. in Ives Park and go until about 1 along Main Street.
Okay, so you'll be doing, there'll be people can bring signs and be talking with others who are also share the same concerns. And Martha, in Malone, the protest is going to be where?
Okay, so it's going to be a rally. We're going to meet at Arsenal Green. There's a little bandstand there.
Mhm.
And then we were going to spread out along Route 11 down to the corner of Elm and 11. We're asking people to mostly bring signs that emphasize that this is a democracy, that we don't have a king, but also if there are issues that people particularly care about, like civil rights or clean water or our health care, those signs are completely welcome.
So this is a wide open opportunity for people to bring their own concerns to the rally.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And
I
so
think that Lisa pointed out before that people, everybody has something that they can do, and everyone has an issue they care about, and we all know that we can't do everything. So we're encouraging people to think about what's most important for them within the context of No Kings, and to bring signage that reflects that.
that's good.
Which they
So
would do anyway.
I'm sorry, say that again,
Which
please,
they would
Lisa.
do anyway, no matter
Yes,
what, no matter what we announced as the theme. That's the
right.
wonderful thing about the First Amendment, I guess.
It is, and you're both right that so many people bring so many different concerns that are reflective of what's going on in their lives and what they see in the lives of their neighbors and their community. So there's uh, there's nothing that is sort of off limits in terms of your care and concern, is there?
Right.
So there's also
Well,
going to be,
I
oh,
actually
excuse me.
I think that we are supporting the government. We are supporting democracy. We are not anarchists. So, yes, we
That's a good point. That's a very good point because if we are actually supporting our Constitution and our Bill of
yes.
Rights, then we
Yes.
are doing something that the administration is obviously going against with all of these
Yes.
high-handed uh, decisions, which are not based in any kind of legal precedent. So there's also two other rallies in the North Country. There'll be one in Massena, also on the 18th on Main Street. That will be from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And in Watertown, there's a rally from 1 to 3 p.m. In Public Square. Do you know of any others up here?
Those are the only four that I know of.
Well, there is one in Plattsburg.
Okay.
It's a little bit distant, but it's still the North Country. They're going to be meeting near where the old Friendly's restaurant is, and their hours, their time is approximately what ours is. That's all available on the Mobilize site.
Right, and we'll put that mobilized site in our show notes for people. So, Martha, talk to us about what to expect at the rallies. What should people bring with them in terms of, you mentioned signage, but are you also looking for donations like Lisa is?
No, no, we aren't. We are specifically emphasizing the the theme of coming together as a community around the theme that we're a democracy, that we've long ago said we do not want a king in this country. Um, so, but also we're going to try to offer people some information about some of these topics that they are interested in and how they can follow them. The Indivisible is putting up a website, and we'll probably have some QR codes so that if people have a particular issue, they can use that QR code to go to a specific page where they can kind of track some of the things that are going on.
So this is
Because staying informed is just overwhelming.
you're exactly right. Yeah, the news is it seems like it's never good, and there's always some new outrage about something that the government has done or are planning to do. So I think you're right about that. Lisa, what is the protocol for the rallies? Let's talk about expected behavior and conduct to keep everybody safe and yet still be able to make their point.
Sure. Well, the central principle, core principle of all No Kings events is a commitment to nonviolence. All of the North Country events that I know of have been peaceful, and this one will be as well. We always have peacekeepers in Potsdam in brightly colored vests. Their role is to de-escalate any conflict. And we always ask our participants to be good neighbors, making sure that people can catch the bus, use the sidewalks, visit the farmers market, get to the local shops, things like that. Um, I'd, I guess I'd like to also ask drivers to be mindful of the crosswalk in Potsdam. Our events never block traffic, but people use that crosswalk all the time, whether or not they're affiliated with our event. So, give us a tap on your horn for encouragement if you would like, but most of all, please drive safely.
That's a really good point because a large crowd of people can cause confusion. Whether or not they are in the street or not, when drivers are driving by, they tend to be wanting to watch what's happening, and then that's an easy way to have a little bit of an accident, and we certainly don't want that either. So that's a good point. Thank you. So sadly, we know the No Kings rally won't stop the anti-democratic behavior of the administration, nor is it likely to get the attention of Congress, who actually has the power to call a halt to much of this. So, what can people expect to continue to protest in the streets? Where do we go from here?
It's a good
So
question.
go ahead, Lisa.
Oh no, you go ahead if you've got a
I
better
was
answer
I was
than
I was going to say that is such a good point because this is not a this is not something that's going to stop very fast. The MAGA regime is going to be there for years. They're strengthening their hold on the country and everything. If you look at history, the only thing that really works to stop this are people that stand up, that resist, and that do that for as long as necessary. Some of the countries that have come back from authoritarianism or overthrown dictators, people spent years doing that. And so this is something that so one of the things that I would really emphasize is that people need to figure out what they care about and what they can do and not burn out and figure that we're going to be in this for the long haul.
I think that's a good point. The League of Women Voters has a Unite and Rise campaign, and that is where we are trying to mobilize. And again, it's completely just average citizens, but we're trying to mobilize 8.5 million new voters to be sure they show up at the
Right.
polls, because we know that elections are determined by the people who vote. And if you didn't vote, that's one of the reasons why we're in the mess we're in today. And so we really need to get back to understanding the power of the ballot in all of this. We need good people to run for office, and we need voters to pay really close attention to the issues and to the candidates and make sure they know what they're voting for. So I think that's a good point that you make there.
can I
So
jump in there?
any final thoughts,
I
Lisa?
just wanted to second what you said about voting, and in particular, there's an election coming up in November, and it's not one of the big ones, but the little things matter, and so these local elections are important, and obviously the midterm elections next year are going to be critical.
People try to dismiss the off-year elections, but it is when you are electing your local representatives to town boards, to village boards, town supervisors, the people that fix the roads. Those people have a tremendous amount of control over the quality of local life. And so paying attention to those elections is really important. You make a really good point about that, Lisa. So thank you for emphasizing that. And of course, as always, there will be 9 days of early voting in New York State in addition to the regular election day. So there's no reason not to either get out and vote on election day, vote early, or if you're not going to be around, you can always vote by absentee ballot. So there are plenty of opportunities for you to make your informed choice at the ballot. Well, thank you both for coming in today and for talking about this event. We will be sure to put the Mobilize US website in our show notes, because they're constantly sending out reminders and opportunities for people to get active and to get engaged. And so if you can't show up for this one, there'll be another one coming down the road that you can show up for. And so thank you both for coming in and for giving us your thoughts on this really important action that's going to be taking place on October 18th.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
So these conversations are a production of North Country Matters. This show is a civic collaboration between the League of Women Voters of St. Lawrence County and the Potsdam Public Library. Until next time, remember, our North Country matters.